The Iowa caucuses are creeping up February 3rd, and Senator Cory Booker is trying to win over voters with a pair of New Year's house parties today. Maura Barrett's on the ground in Des Moines, Iowa now. And Maura, set the scene for us. What is going on at these Booker's New Year's Eve parties?
Hey, Allison. So a house party is actually a very typical event here in Iowa. We've seen them since over the summer. I moved here back in June, and house parties are a very common event that candidates do here because it's more of an intimate setting. They can give a short version of their stump speech and have an actual conversation with voters. But obviously, it is New Year's Eve, so Cory Booker, who's actually just behind me talking with some other members of the press, got to do that. And they were expecting, I was told, about 50 people, and actually this house is overflowing with over 100, 120 people or so. So as we get closer to caucus, we're going to see more interest in the winnowed down field of candidates. So when they can go inside these houses, the voters get to listen to the candidates. They give their stump speech, and they get to ask them some tough questions. Cory Booker took a few questions today, and he got to give some longer answers. And typically, this is a good opportunity for candidates to get some pushback and voters to really hone in on what their true interests are as we're 35, 34 days out to caucus.
Yeah, 34 now, right? I mean, it's getting closer and closer. All right, so that's a little different image than some people might have of a house party. We're not talking like cocktails and DJs and hanging out. There are some tough questions for the candidates. What big talking points was Booker hitting today?
Sure. So Booker typically will talk, he has a message of unity and love. And today he kind of really focused in on the fact that he's friends with a lot of these candidates that are running. He thinks they're all very much qualified. He name dropped Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Andrew Yang. And he said that basically a lot of these candidates are going to be better than what's in the White House right now. And so he really focused in on the fact that their policies aren't going to be that different, but whoever's in the White House or after Donald Trump will actually be better than who's currently in there right now. And so he was just kind of talking about the message of kindness, love, togetherness, and fighting for justice. He constantly goes back to his experience as the New York mayor back in New Jersey, back where you're close to, Allison. But he has to bring and translate those values from Newark out to the Midwest. And he's been coming out here for many years at this point. He's very well known in Iowa. But obviously, we have not been seeing that translate to the polls here as caucus creeps closer, unfortunately.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's not really translating in the polls. You said you moved to Iowa. Who better to ask about Iowans than you? Then what are you hearing from voters there? What about his points? What's not landing? What's the problem here?
Cory Booker is one of the confusing ones here in Iowa, honestly, Allison, because he gets good turnout at these events. He's engaging. He has his dad jokes. We're all very familiar with them here on the trail. He makes people laugh. I've seen voters cry. Like, they're very emotional events, and yet most of the voters I talk to at the end of each of these events aren't committing to caucus for him. So that's been a big question mark for a lot of the reporters here that I work with in Iowa. Because he's been coming here so often, he's very involved in the local community, and local endorsers and legislators have all kind of been behind him since the beginning of his candidacy. And so we just haven't seen any uptick in his momentum. He constantly talks about his surge that they're experiencing right now. He touts the net favorability rise. We haven't really seen an updated poll in about a month here in Iowa. So there could be a change in the next one that we see. And hopefully we'll see some more ahead of the January 10th qualifying date for the next debates here in Iowa. So there's a lot kind of in the unknown right now. And that's typical around this holiday lull. But voters I've talked to a ton in the past month or so since Kamala Harris dropped out. I've actually spoken with a lot of former Kamala supporters who are more interested in Cory Booker now, but yet, like I said, are not committing to caucus for him just yet.
You mentioned the next debate on January 14th. Booker has not yet qualified for that. We know the Iowa caucuses are just 3 weeks later. Has he talked about how he's going to make up for potentially not being on that debate stage and what his game plan is over the next month or so?
Sure. So the Booker campaign is heavily focused on Iowa. They basically see their path needs to come out of the Hawkeye state. They've mentioned that after they invest in Iowa, if there's a path forward from there, they can look at South Carolina, which insinuates that they're going to be skipping New Hampshire and Nevada possibly. But obviously, as we both know, the impeachment trial looms ahead, and he'll have to be back in D.C. for that. Booker's campaign manager actually just tweeted in the last hour that they're going to hit the highest fundraising numbers this quarter they've seen yet. Previously, his highest fundraising was at about $6 million. So we're expecting to see a little bit more than that. But considering he's not going to be able to be physically here in Iowa, we might see some more investment in television advertising, digital advertising. He just dropped his first big television ad campaign here in Iowa this week. So if he's not physically here in Iowa, he'll be on TV. They talked about doing town halls, virtual town halls, so he can Skype in when he's back in D.C. And so he's really going to have to go all in on Iowa because, frankly, if he's not out here and it doesn't place in the top 5 in Iowa, there probably isn't a path for him past that. Allison.
Yeah. All right, Maura, thank you so much. Happy New Year to you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.